What would it look like to have just the right amount of leg drive on your serve? Well, in today's video lesson, I'm going to go through the serve and how it relates to your leg drive, because a lot of players are struggling with this and I want to clear it up for you. My name is Jeff Salzenstein, founder of Tennis Evolution, former top 100 ATP player, and the serve is something that I'm absolutely passionate about. I love teaching students how to improve their serve and really to break down the fine details, the attention to detail that's so important. In today's video, we're going to go over the leg drive. Now, there are a lot of coaches out there that tell their players to just use their legs, use more legs, bend your knees more, and I think that could be a mistake. Reason being is that so many players struggle with their upper body motion. So when they go to serve, they lack shoulder turn or they get the elbow in the wrong place. So if you're a player that's focusing on your leg drive or getting the right amount of legs into your serve to be able to jump and leave the ground and hit a great serve, you might want to put that on the back burner and focus on what your upper body is doing. So just make sure you have a great shoulder turn, okay? Make sure you have a great shoulder turn and you get your elbow in the right place. Make sure you have great rhythm on your serve and don't even worry about your leg drive. So first things first, when I hit this serve, when I'm warming up, I just focus on having a smooth swing, and you can see there's not a lot of leg drive yet because I want to get the upper body working correctly. I would say 95% of all players, maybe even more, maybe 99% of players could actually focus on what their upper body is doing in developing that rhythm with their arm, with their hand, with their elbow, getting everything in the right place, getting everything working together. Once we get that down, then we focus on the leg drive. And so there's some things that I want to point out today, some mistakes that I see being made out there. And of course, I want to clear it up for you and show you what I think is the best focus that you should have when it comes to your leg drive. First things first, I like to get into a platform stance. I find that when players get into a pinpoint stance and they bring this leg up like this, they might only be able to really push off of this front leg, that there's less weight on this back foot. I like to have the weight a little more equally distributed between the front foot and the back foot. So when you get into this platform stance, then you want to essentially get to your trophy position. And when it comes to the leg drive, you want to feel like you're able to drive off of both legs. Now, I feel there's a little more weight on the front foot when I go to push off. Okay, maybe it's 60-40. But what I see a lot of players doing is they really shift their weight forward and they lose all of the weight on their back legs, so they lose a lot of leg drive. So make sure that when you're serving, and I'll actually do one right now, feel like you have weight on both feet when you push off. So I get into my platform stance and I feel like I really push off of both legs. Okay, that's very, very important. So many players, whether they're in the platform and they shift to the front foot when they toss the ball, they get into this position, or they actually bring this foot up, and I feel like they're losing leg drive. It might help your rhythm to bring your back foot up if you're one of those players that struggles with rhythm, just keeping your feet aligned in this stationary, in this platform stance. But again, I prefer the platform stance so that you can push off of the front foot and the back foot. At the end of the day, power comes from the ground, and we want to use the ground appropriately. So that's the first step. The next concept that I want you to focus on when it comes to your leg drive is that when you get in this platform stance, I want you to make sure that you turn your hips and your shoulders in this fashion like this. If you don't turn your hips, if you just turn your shoulders and you keep your hips in this position right here, you're going to get more into a squatting position. So when I work with players and I get them to turn their shoulders and they don't know how to turn their hips, they get into this position, and you can see there's a big curve in the low back. So we want to avoid that. And one way to do it is to learn how to turn the hips and to push a little bit forward into the front hip. Okay, that's what I feel. I feel like when I turn my shoulders and my hips, I still keep my weight on my back foot as I shift forward a little bit, but I feel like I'm turning my hips and I'm pushing this hip out a little bit. okay? That's very, very important. So many players that I come across that are really working on leg drive, again, I see this squatting. And then basically you're just squatting from the quads. You're not really using your hips appropriately. So you want to make sure that you can, I call it tucking the tail. You turn this hip when you turn your shoulders, and you get this hip to push forward a little bit. Now, I don't think about really pushing the hip forward. A lot of coaches talk about pushing the hip forward and getting to this position. I feel it happens naturally when you just get the right amount of weight on the front foot and you make sure that you get your hips to turn when your shoulders turn. So we really want to avoid, and again, I have advanced players, professionals, college players, especially those players that don't have a natural motion when it comes to their shoulder turn, or maybe they have a weakness in their body physically, they might not be as strong as they could be. I see a lot of players doing this squatting thing, and you see this curve in the low back. And again, we want this, I call it tucking the tail. We want to tuck the tail forward so that the spine is aligned like this. And that's what you see Federer doing and Sampras doing and all the great servers out there that have a great shoulder turn and understand the biomechanics, how it feels to serve efficiently. So we want to avoid that squat. All right, we've gotten you into the platform stance. We're avoiding the squatting too much by making sure that you turn your hips and your shoulders when you get into that trophy position. We also have the feet. We also have the both feet, weight being pushed off of both feet. Now, one of the problems that I had when I was a young pro is that I felt I had too deep of a knee bend, and this is what I want to talk about next. Related to the squat, I see a lot of players that bend their knees and they get in this squatting position, or even if they are able to turn like this, they still bend their knees too much. Again, I feel like if you don't get this hip out, you don't get the hip turn, it's going to be easier for you to squat down like this, and you're actually losing power. If you think of a vertical jump, if I'm going to jump as high as possible, okay, I'm not going to go really far down like this and then jump. I'm going to make it a pretty quick down and up, okay, pretty quick down and up. I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm not going to squat like this. I'm just going to go here and I'm going to go. And that's what I want you to feel in the serve. Yes, it's going to be a little slower and more deliberate to get to here, but once you get to here, then you just want to fire, okay? You want to be very explosive. And you can't do that if you bend your knees too much, if you squat too much. So you're going to drop and go, right? So I feel like I'm dropping and I'm going. I'm really firing. I'm not staying in the hole too long down here. Okay, that's what I see some players do. And of course, if you have a platform stance, a pinpoint stance, and you bring the foot up, it should be a pretty quick motion. You should probably go to here, and then you should jump and push off the ground and use your legs that way. The problem that I see with a lot of players is when their toss is really high, they toss it too high, they stay down what I call in the hole too long. They stay down in here when they're really trying to use their legs. Again, I had a player that was really challenged with her serve, and some coaches were telling her she needed to use more legs. And when she sent me a video, I saw a player that was actually squatting more, and her serve was not better because she wasn't efficient. So again, you should be able to generate great power without a lot of leg drive, okay? You should be able to be really loose with your hand and your arm, okay? I'm not using a lot of legs there. Once you get that motion down, then again, once you get the upper body down, then you can start to bend and get more leg into it. So I feel like the legs are like the frosting on the cake. Let's get the cake foundation of your serve correct. And then the frosting is going to be the legs, because when we start to add too much frosting, the cake doesn't taste as good. All right. So just to summarize today, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to focus on getting your upper body to work correctly, getting the rhythm, the tempo, the shoulder turn. Second, I advise that you get into a platform stance so that you can push off of both legs. You're going to have a little more weight on the front foot than the back foot, but again, a lot of players shift to this front foot too much. You still need to feel some weight on your back leg when you push off, okay? That's the second thing. The third thing is related to the platform. Make sure you get a nice hip turn so that you can push your front hip out over the line. This is going to keep you from bending too much. If I'm in this position, I can't really squat. when you don't push the hip out correctly and you don't turn the hips, it's gonna look more like this. So really focus on that concept of getting the hip turned. That's number 3. And the 4th is think of a vertical jump. You don't wanna stay in the hold too long. You don't wanna wait here. If you have too high of a toss, you might be susceptible to waiting. So get the toss in the right place so that as soon as you drop down, right when you get to here, you wanna fire up to the ball. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. I really enjoyed providing this serve content for you. I'm very passionate about helping players of all levels. Even though I'm a high performance coach and I work with pros and college players and top level juniors, I know that I can help recreational players that are committed to the game, and I want to help you guys out. Now, we've got a ton of free tips over at Tennis Evolution. I'd love for you to try them out, check them out. I really believe it can help your game. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and we'll see you at the next video.